And I'm like, well, guess what? So do 10 million other people. But it's got to be something that really sets you apart. And sometimes it's the guitar, sometimes it's the tone, sometimes it's little things that, like, you know, one day I walk in with a 1960s Galliano 12-string that I string as a 6. But when I play arpeggios on it, it sounds like bells. And so once somebody hears that, they'll, hey man, can you bring that Galliano next time? So there's like a guitar, right? Sometimes there's an amp. I have an old Sun 6-channel PA transistor head that you plug into channel 3, put everything on 10. It sounds pretty interesting into a 412 with the Les Paul. And people are like, hey man, can you bring that PA head next time? And then things that, like tuning things, right? I do, everybody does different tuning things, but I do this thing where I take the E string, tune it to the B string, so you got a B and an E, both notes are a B. I actually put the E in the B notch, so now the strings are in the same notch. I call it bouzouki tuning. I'm Greek. So anyways, you get these two strings that are the same tone, and you can start playing melodies on it, and there's a string rub when it's open. It almost sounds sitarish. But you play melodies, and when you shake it, because each string is a different gauge, they shake a little differently, and you don't know if it's a double or a chorus pedal or something. But you play a melody, and it was funny, because in 1 year, I did and your job basically is to make a song sound better, right? The chorus kicks in, hey man, you got to take the chorus to the next level. So in 1 year, I'd used that bouzouki tuning thing on a Daughtry song, a Norianti song, and somebody else, I forget. And it was like, oh my God, that bouzouki thing's on the radio. And then I go into the studio the next time, and they're like, hey man, why don't you try that bouzouki thing? I'm like, let's lay off that for a little bit. But it is something that people remember. It's something that, you know, I even used it with Bob Rock one time, and he's like, hey, I'm stealing that bouzouki thing, right? I'm like, everybody does. But it's a really interesting sound. So to answer your question, it is something that makes you, right? It's an individual thing that makes you stand out. And that's what you have to find. That's probably the hardest part. Anybody else?
Can I say something? Knock your head
As long as you mention quad or processors.
I've never mentioned the quad once. That's the go over there. For me, it was the fretless thing. And the downside of if you have like a shtick is people expect it, and it can get old really quick. You know, when you have to, you know, do something at a gig because that's what you get known for, you kind of have to do it whether you like it or not. It starts to go on your nerves after a while.
For me, it was specializing in acoustic that made a difference. Because as the studio work kind of diminished, the movie stuff is a much smaller business. The record stuff, you know, I'll still do a couple of big records a year in kind of the pop arena, but mostly it was putting out my own records, touring, becoming a specialist, and developing instruments that were pushing the envelope in terms of getting sounds that were more classic, but in a controllable way. You walk in the studio with a 1930s Martin, it's going to sound amazing, but it's not going to play real in tune because the frets are slightly in the wrong place. Whereas a new version of the same thing that's been played a lot on the road, you know, it's like my arsenal has become very specialized in what I do in terms of altered tunings. You know, I'll go work, like I worked with Danny Elfman on Good Will Hunting, and he had this melody in D, and I said, well, look, if I play it in DAG tuning, it will sound really cool. And